Aloha. Welcome to American Issues Take Two. I'm Tim Apicella, filling in for Jay Fidel. Today's title is Trump's Indictment, Justice Slowly Served. I'll say what I said yesterday on the show. No matter if you're a Democrat, Republican, Independent, Green Party, Libertarian Party, Tuesday was a sad day to see the President of the United States arrested and arraigned. No one should take any pride in that. If you're a Republican or a MAGA Republican, you're not very happy. In fact, you're fuming that these charges were brought against Donald Trump in the first place. And if you're a Democrat, you're not very happy because it took so many years to do this. But you are at least relieved to see the wheels of justice, although they move slowly, turning into Donald Trump's driveway. So to discuss that, we'll go to our guests. With me today, we have our special esteemed guest, Jeff Portnoy, and our contributor and often sage seeker and teller, Stephanie Dalton. Thank you so much, both of you, for showing up. Jeff, to you, what's your, you saw what happened on Tuesday. I'm sure you did, like most Americans. What was your general observations of either the arrest, arraignment, or the unveiling of the 34 indictments, or statement of facts, or anything in between? What was your observations?
Well, I think you put it correctly. It was a sad day. I think we're going to see a couple more days like this over the next couple of months on what I think are going to be far more significant legal challenges and charges. I think anyone who was surprised by the way Donald Trump reacted that evening has been living in a coffin. I listened to all the commentators who said, oh, why would he say what he did? And why couldn't his attorneys have controlled him? No one's ever controlled him for 70 years, except his father. And that gets into psychological and psychiatric issues. So, I think the real question is, how far can these charges go? I'm not a criminal lawyer, so I really am not an expert in the obscure New York law that he's been indicted under. But I do think it's a very risky prosecution to attempt to turn these misdemeanors, which are like traffic tickets, into felonies on the basis that somehow there was a more important crime being committed, which has yet to be disclosed. I guess all the speculation is somehow that crime is somehow involved with trying to impact the election. I'm not sure how that's a crime. And whether there's a federal campaign spending violation, I think is a federal offense. And it's 7 years ago. So I don't know. There's no question that what happened here, you got to be a dummy not to know that he paid her off so that she wouldn't say things publicly. But, there's a prior presidential candidate who got off by claiming he did what he did because he didn't want his wife to know. And that was the basis for an acquittal. So I'm not so sure about what's going to happen at the end of the day on this one.
Does it make a difference that there are two other parties involved in kind of the similar thing? You had the doorman who was paid off, and then the Playmate of the Year, Karen McDougal, also paid off. Does it help the case that it's not an isolated payoff to preserve?
I thought the doorman has recanted, by the way. I think there's I read a story the other day. I didn't know anything about the doorman, but I think, at least I read, that was all made up, that was maybe an extortion effort that they just didn't want to deal with. I'm sure Stormy Daniels isn't the only woman who's been paid, but I have a little problem seeing the crime. Mm-hmm. And again, I don't know enough about this arcane New York law. And again, even that's just a misdemeanor. And so, you bring it 34 times, it doesn't change anything. Each time he wrote a check, it became a new misdemeanor. The real question is, can they support it as a felony? And we're going to find out from a lot of pretrial motions.
Does it make a difference that Michael Cohen, Trump's former attorney, and Alan Weissenberg basically went to jail under the cloud of this same payoff?
Well, he went to jail because he lied. He went to jail for perjury. He didn't go to jail because
Correct.
of the payoff.
Okay, good point. Yeah.
And I don't know what the publisher's role is. He seems to be very involved. But again, is it a crime to buy somebody off so that their story doesn't get published? Which is what happened here. I mean, they buy the exclusive rights to the story, knowing that they never have any intent to publish it because Donald Trump doesn't want it to see the light of day. I don't see that as a crime.
Well, wouldn't it make a difference if the funds came directly out of the campaign fund chest?
I think that's part of the issue, But if it's a campaign spending violation, it's not a New York law. It's a federal law. So it's very convoluted. And again, my hope is that this particular indictment, which is now so front and center, is going to become the caboose at the end of the train. Mm-hmm. And that far more significant indictments are hopefully going to come, particularly on the federal level, dealing with January 6th. And maybe more importantly, I don't think January 6th, I think that's going to be tough, but taking the classified documents, which he's now admitted to.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that. At his speech in Mar-a-Lago, I mean, once again, my jaw's dropping to the floor thinking, not only did he do this on the Hannity interview, but he just did it in front of everyone saying that, yeah, I took him, I have the right to do so, and that's my prerogative. Was Jack Smith listening during that speech?
Listen, Donald Trump has been Teflon for decades. Now he's facing criminal charges. He's bought his way out of civil charges. He's bought his way out of administrative fines and charges dealing with housing violations, whatever. But it goes on two levels, folks. I mean, you got the criminal justice system, and then you got the political ramifications. And my concern is the latter, because almost everyone believes that he's become a stronger political candidate in the last 48 hours because he's been indicted. I mean, that tells you a lot about where this country is.
Sure does. Back in the Bonnie and Clyde days where they were heroes. Stephanie, what's your general observations about what took place Tuesday? And did it make you sad, or was it a sad day for America? And what are your thoughts?
Well, my day is not sad. My say is not sad. My say is overdue. Okay, regardless of the quality of this work from the DA in New York City, and thanks for the illumination, Jeffrey, that you give us about that quality issue. So not being a lawyer, but listening to my education on TV these days, I'm understanding that we might be getting at some motive here, because one of the things that everybody's forgotten, since it was, as you say, 7 years ago or whenever, that this case about the Stormy and then the McDougal and then the others that follow have to do with, I think, motive. And motive is one of the hardest things to prove, right? Or to get at. But anyway, the point is that the accumulation of these acts that he performed, guilty and not guilty, whatever, excusable, exonerable, okay. I mean, but the cumulative impact of them at the time would have been devastating. It's hard to, yes, we thought it was over when the bus came in and the Bush guy was playing off of Donald, saying all of those awful things about women. But that didn't take him down, which would have taken down Abraham Lincoln probably. But what would most likely have done it is if the next, right after the bus tape, came the Stormy report and the McDougal thing and anything else that might have come out. But to have a 2 and 3 to impact Donald's campaign effort was what I understand he was afraid of. That was that was the motive for these women off. I mean, are you getting
let me ask you this, because there is, and Jeff has correctly pointed out that this case seems to be a little bit weak. Yet District Attorney Bragg said, I have prosecuted many people under these exact same statutes, and quote unquote, everyone stands equal with the law. Does that make an impact or change where we are today with this indictment for Donald Trump?
He better get a conviction.
Well, of course,
because if people think Donald Trump has been weakened, and I think that's a serious question. I know 60% of the people in the CNN poll think that the indictment is appropriate. But if he gets acquitted, or if the judge throws these charges out, Donald Trump is going to be a very formidable candidate in the 2024 election.
Would that impact the other indictments that might be pending?
I think those are separate. That's why I say, we'll have to wait and see. But if on this one alone, this one's going to be forgotten. It's going to be forgotten. Right now, it's front page everywhere. It's occupying 24/7 on talk radio. If there's another indictment that comes down in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 5 weeks, this one goes to the back burner.
Yeah.
Because this is clearly the weakest. And I'll tell you the truth. We're not arguing morality here or whatever. I mean, everybody knew that he bought off Stormy Daniels back then. And he still won the election. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, to me,
But nobody knew about it. Yeah, but did we know about Stormy? No, we only knew about the bus. We only knew up to the bus.
Well, when did we learn about Stormy Daniel?
We know later, without an right? Later, it was
later, but it didn't affect his popularity at all
because he shot down the cumulative effect. So he knew he could do a Clinton thing and get through with this one bad swipe. But he knew that all of those coming together, that I think is really
well. I take Jeff's point that it was a so what. We know what he is. We know what he does, and
who cares?
C'est la vie, c'est la guerre.
Well, let's reassure ourselves here for a minute. I appreciate the polling data very much, and Jeff just sort of mentioned, but the independents are not going for this. They think it's an appropriate indictment. Of course, the Dems do.
Well, let's reference what you just brought up here. Not Maris, but CNN did a recent polling right after the indictment hearing, and it said the following. 94 Democrats approved of the indictment, 62 independents approve of the indictment, and 21% of the GOP actually approved of the indictment. Those are numbers to look at. Mm-hmm. And what's it say to you, Stephanie, that, again, I agree, should the independents, that number really be looked at?
Yes, I think it's critical. The number of independent signed on to this indictment means that they won't vote for him, and he can't make it if they don't vote for him. Okay,
well, he's got his
30%. He's got his.
Come on, he's going to make the GOP nominee.
Well, I mean, so we all know what this first round is all about, and we know that Biden can beat him. So,
do we know that? I don't think we know that.
Wait, he got 75 million votes in the 2020 election.
Mm-hmm.
75 million, with all the scandal, with all the controversy. I mean, I think, Stephanie, you're discounting his skill and his ability to be a messiah to a significant portion of the country. And you say, wait, and you say he's clearly going to beat Biden. Did you see the poll today on like 65% of the Democrats don't want to vote for Biden in the next election? Don't think he should even be running? 65% of the Democrats. What does that tell you? Now, if they have no choice, I guess they can stay home or whatever.
But anything younger than Biden would be welcome. Okay.
But there isn't going to be anybody younger than it's going to be Biden.
Well, it might. We'll see what happens.
Okay, well,
let me just say,
anyway.
Well, one more thing. Okay, so what you're saying is that he can make it no matter what. No,
I didn't say that.
No.
I think if he gets indicted on a serious charge that has significant legal merit, that'll end it.
Well, one more thing.
But this one in New York is not, I'm telling you right now, even if he gets convicted, which I don't think he will of a felony. But again, I'm not an expert in this, and I'm reading all the so-called experts. You got one law professor saying this is valid, another one saying it's a joke, that's my word, not theirs, but that it's not a felony. I mean,
yeah.
If this was the only indictment he's facing,
no problem, right?
No counting him out.
He'd skate. Yeah. Well, my point is that he's faded, to your point about his influence, okay? I see his influence as waning because nobody showed up. Nobody took the dog whistles. Nobody came up and stood up. Okay. So I'm saying that people have been stung by serving him. Okay. All those January 6 people, they've all had a taste of the inside of a prison cell. Okay. Or whatever, or the courtroom or whatever. So I maintain that there is some influence waning here. And
okay, let me go to this point because his influence is waning. No one showed up at this. He asked people to show up. Now, granted, it was in Manhattan. He doesn't have a lot of loyal GOP base in Manhattan, but
well, neither did
best,
DC.
maybe 100 to 150 people showed up in his behalf. Now, the question is this, Stephanie, was that a result, perhaps, of all the arrests and convictions that took place on January 6th? And that served as a lesson of caution to those that wanted to go there and be disruptive?
How many people?
I'd like to think that it was. I'd like to think that they got some punishment and had an effect, but I don't think that's it.
We don't know that correlation.
A lot of trouble.
Wait for his next political rally. And when you see 20,000 people there, then we can talk about how his influence is waning. Because his last political rally 10 days ago, when everybody knew the indictment was coming,
in Waco,
was jammed. There are, I don't disagree with you that slowly but surely people are dropping off. They're tired of it, whatever. But that 30 or 35%, they ain't going anywhere.
What do they think he's going to do for them, Jeff?
He's going to make America great. He's going to make America great.
Okay, I
mean, what can I tell you?
It's the dog whistle of before all these changes happened that reduced the power base of white people, white males.
That's right.
Okay, the white males. Okay, so they're going to these rallies because they don't have enough fun in their lives. So they're going up there to
they're going for whatever reason they're going. And look, the real question is what's going to happen with the New York indictment?
Yeah.
And we won't even know till September. When motions are, due and things like that. We got 5 months of downtime as far as New York is concerned, right?
That's an eternity.
It's boring. And it's also boring. Quote, Rachel Maddow.
The excitement is over. The non-event occurred, and it was a non-event. I mean, compared to what people thought, the apocalypse was going to happen. New York was going to burn down. King Kong was going to come down from the Empire State Building. I mean, he got indicted. I've read the transcript. It was fairly nondescript. It's almost a typical a typical arraignment, except for the comments about shutting him up. That's going to be more fascinating to me as to what happens with his inability to restrain himself. Mm-hmm. And if he continues to make comments about the judge and the judge's family and the prosecutor that arguably can incite people to violence. You talk about January 6th, what he said about the judge and the prosecutor and what people should do is worse than he ever said about January 6th.
Yeah. Let me go to that point, Jeff. The last part of what the judge said as he was giving instructions to both the people and the defense. And I won't go through the whole thing, but I'll just read the last part. Please refrain from making comments or engaging in conduct that has a potential to incite violence, create civil unrest, or jeopardize the safety or well-being of any individuals. Yet Donald Trump waited 4 hours to break those very carefully worded instructions.
Well, they're gonna have a tough time gagging him because the Constitution. It's very hard to gag a defendant. You can try.
I mean, Roger Stone got gagged, but that's a whole other deal. Look, here's the question, Jeff. Where's the tipping point between Trump's First Amendment rights, especially as a GOP candidate for president, versus the judge's explicit instructions to curtail his statements that might influence or incite violence from others?
Well,
where's that tipping point?
The answer, Tim, is no one knows because we've never had this situation before. So no one knows where the tipping point is. We've never had a former president, crazy as this one is, get
hypothetically,
indicted.
Let's say we didn't have a president.
Then it's a different story. I mean, you can't threaten a witness. I mean, you arrest people for threatening witnesses or threatening the court. They get arrested every day. Somebody just got arrested here for threatening a witness in a major case here, or trying to intimidate or influence a witness. That's not unusual. What's unusual is it's the president of the United States.
Well, how would you classify what Donald Trump said and later pictures of the judge's daughter posted? How would you classify those statements? Were they threatening?
It's in the eye of the beholder, and I think if someone were to attack the judge's daughter, I think she could make a pretty good claim to sue Donald Trump. I mean, if you really want to get to it, I mean, people talk about inciting the crowd on January 6th to storm the Capitol. That's one. The Capitol's a building. It's not a person.
Good.
And now he's calling the prosecutor an animal, and because he's such a racist. I mean, but there are things you can't say. I mean, you can't say the judge is incompetent or biased, or it's just that he has no filter.
Was that the ploy? Is to try to enrage the judge so that the judge would have to recuse himself from the case?
No, because this judge isn't recusing himself. I've read enough about this judge. Look, there's a reason why he has the lawyers around him that he has, who are a bunch of misfits, and has been, right, for 4 years, misfits. This might be a little better because he's got some high-powered criminal lawyers, hopefully going to get paid, by the way. But unless they get control of him, he's just making things difficult for himself. And by the way, we haven't even gotten to how are you ever going to get a jury? How are you going to get a jury anywhere? They want to move it to Staten Island because they're all old white people.
But actually, Donald Trump won Staten Island.
No, I know. That's what I said. He wants to move it to Staten Island. Yeah. But I mean, it's like there's no way he doesn't get convicted of something in New York if this goes to trial. The real question is, a misdemeanor is what, $1,000 fine? I don't know what it is in New York, but it's nothing.
Should he be sanctioned?
Nah, not yet.
Not yet. All right. Stephanie, what do you think about what Donald Trump did not less than 4 hours from the time he received some fairly explicit instructions from the judge to kind of like cool it down? But he didn't. In fact, he did everything but cool it down. What was your impression, or what are your thoughts on that point?
Well, that's an interesting question. I found that his face, the way he looked during his participation in the courtroom, I thought that meant fairly seriously attending and taking it. But hey, I guess I was fooled again, because then the performance later that day belied anything like that, or in any fear or trepidation or concern about stepping over the line. Because for this man, there are no lines. And I wanted to say also that, what do you think about a potential outcome of this effort will maybe be to get DOJ and Merrick Garland involved, and maybe even under scrutiny? Well, certainly under scrutiny, if not even action, because of the fact that this case was put aside at the request, I believe, of Bill Barr, the Attorney General with Trump's administration. And that the assumption was, from what I read, that once they did whatever they were going to do with it under Bill Barr and Trump, and then when Biden came on, and that then they would pick it up again. And that they never picked the case up again for all these years. And then people retired and went on, and now they're picking it up again. So I've heard some criticism of Merrick Garland as to where's the statement about why this was put on the shelf? Why was this?
Bragg said that they didn't have the evidence that he now has. So there was a kind of like a little surprise in a box that we're all waiting for him to open up to say, okay, what is the difference? What did you have recently that Merrick Garland didn't have before? So we'll see.
Okay, because we didn't get anything on that. In other words, I was looking for some hints about that, or some information on the opening.
Look, it's easy to forget history. There have been presidents who have engaged in far worse criminal conduct. Warren Harding, we can go through a list, up through Nixon, who never got indicted. Never. So, you can understand why people who, want to revere Trump can get up on a platform and say this is all political. He didn't kill anybody yet that we know about. He didn't rob a bank yet. He didn't, although we're going to find out soon enough, rape a woman. That case is going to, you talk about what's going to happen in 2 weeks when that civil case goes to trial. It's going to trial unless he buys somebody off now, and now it's going to be a little hard. She's going to trial in 2 weeks about being sexually assaulted.
The E.G.?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, it pales to, a $10,000 campaign violation. That's all I'm saying. Mm-hmm. If you're going to get him for something good.
I agree. So obviously the prosecutors and the district attorneys didn't coordinate between Georgia, Jack Smith, and the Bragg's office. Obviously there's no coordination, but had they coordinated, then it would have looked like the cabal of Democrats trying to coordinate and throw, Donald Trump under the bus. So that would have looked worse.
Don't they want, and I don't know about this, but don't they want, isn't one of the document issues that the Trump people want the DA's emails? And if they do, it seems to me they want to see if there was any collusion.
Okay, Stephanie, last question. We're almost out of time. Okay. In the past, the Republicans, and especially the MAGA Republicans, were saying, how dare you say defund the police? What an un-American thing to do. And yet yesterday, excuse me, Donald Trump says the following: defund the FBI and DOJ until they come to their senses. Now, is that a shocking thing for the Republicans that Donald Trump represents in light of defund the police criticisms they made? Isn't it a little bit hypocritical to now say, I need to save my bacon and let's defund the DOJ and the FBI?
Tim, wait.
Go ahead.
You want to use the word hypocritical with Trump?
I do.
Well, I want to say
what other word do I have in the English language?
Did you all see the piece with Maria Bartiromo and Jim Jordan? And Jim Jordan said that what he was going to do was change the budget. When Maria was asking what would be the consequences for these people that aren't cooperating with Jim Jordan's committee's requests, right, info, and he was
not required to cooperate with them.
Well, he said he would have some effect on their budgets. And so Maria said, oh, well, whose budgets? Does that mean the FBI and the CIA and like that, or not necessarily CIA, but certainly the FBI and Justice,
Department of Justice.
And Jim was quiet for a few moments. He was like kind of surprised. And then he kind of like halfway said, yeah. So
is this a case of ready, fire, aim?
Don't worry about
from the GOP.
Don't worry about Fox, because after this Dominion case is over,
You
they'll
hope.
they'll be broadcasting through cans. You know, you'll have to have a can up to your ear.
Or
Jeffrey, I hope now you're being all excited and
I never get excited.
but you're hopeful. And so you're taking that away, though, from all this effort in the judiciary against Trump. But now you have a big expectation for this Dominion case. So
no. I mean, why, Stephanie? Once the Republicans took over the House, all this was going to happen. Yeah. I mean, it's not a shock, and they're going to do exactly what they're doing. They're going to have hearing after hearing and subpoena after subpoena. They're going to get retribution for what they claim happened over the last, 2+ years. Look, you're dealing with people who are deranged. Did you see the Marjorie Taylor interview on 60 Minutes on Sunday?
I refused to look at it. What was it? What was the main point?
No, there was a 20-minute interview. I mean, it was the most insightful one that I've seen. On one hand, she appears to be a normal human being. And then on the other hand, she's possessed.
I understand Leslie Stahl was criticized heavily for not going after her more stringently.
Yeah, I didn't know that, but I can understand that. She gave her a few tough ones, though. But,
yeah,
you're dealing with a woman that is experienced in how to twist things around. And, anyway. Well, yeah, look, they're going to go
twisted. You're going to act twisted. So, there you go.
Trump said for 4 years the Justice Department was corrupt and the FBI was corrupt. So what's new?
Well, he just spaded. He was just doing a spade work. He was just getting all of the work done to weaken the institutions. So he's just a master of that.
Go read, and I don't mean this as a direction. Read a biography of Roy Cohn.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
and you'll see exactly what Donald Trump's mentor is and idol is.
Wasn't Roger Stone a disciple of Cohen?
Yeah. So,
and also wasn't Agnew, when I listened to the Bagman podcast, the Agnew Act was exactly the same thing we're seeing now. So it wasn't influenced.
Hey, guess what, you guys? I'm sorry to interrupt you, Stephanie.
We're out of time.
Are we out of time?
Oh my God.
Completely out of time. And I got to get your last thoughts, and then we got to go. So
I have none.
Well, you just hold on to that thought. Stephanie, with you first.
Well, I'll go back to my point made earlier about the value of this work, this court effort against Trump, and it is for the cumulative effect. Okay, that was the motive Trump had, to get in the way of creating a cumulative effect that would be hurtful to him. So I say that these four judicial efforts will be able to maybe deliver the cumulative effect that will get in his path and trip him up finally.
Okay. Jeff, I know you said you have nothing, but I know you have something. Go ahead.
Unless Trump is in prison starting in early 2024, he will be the Republican nominee for president of the United States. And it will be a lot closer than we hope and wish and pray. And this New York indictment is not going to be the poison pen or the poison dart.
No.
There's going to have to be a much more significant indictment leading to a hopeful conviction for something far more significant than paying off Stormy Daniels. That's the political side of it, in my view.
All right. Well, Jeff, thank you for ruining my appetite for lunch. I want to thank all our guests, Jeff, Stephanie. I want to thank you for a delightful, insightful discussion. So with me today, Stephanie Dalton and Jeff Portnoy. Thank you so much for appearing on American Issues Take Two. I'm Tim Apicella. Join Jay Fidel next week. And until then, aloha.
Thank you so much for watching ThinkTech Hawaii. If you like what we do, Please like us and click the subscribe button on YouTube and the follow button on Vimeo. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and donate to us at thinktechhawaii.com. Mahalo.